All right, everyone, we are going to go ahead and get started. I just want to thank each and every one of you for taking time out of your very busy schedules to join us here for this month's Accelerate series webinar that's going to be focused on uncovering opportunities using Asset Map Discovery. Now, while there's many goals that Asset Map can help you achieve, how important is it for you to deliver an exceptional client experience? By the end of today's session, my hope is to leave you well equipped to start using Discovery successfully and to your advantage to better engage new clients, prospects, and even possibly for lead generation to build your book of business. And I'm so excited to share with you the power of this tool. Now, first, let's address a few housekeeping items. The lines are going to be muted for recording quality, which means that if you want to ask questions, the best place to do that is going to be the question section within the GoToWebinar meeting. So you should see a question section in your main menu. Any questions that you submit there, we are so fortunate because my incredible colleague and friend, Brad Janicki, our customer success advisor over here at Asset Map, is on the line with us today. And he's going to be manning the questions that come in. So all throughout today's session, if you have a question, please submit it there. We're also going to be sharing some fantastic resources with you via the chat area within GoToWebinar, so keep a lookout there as well. Now, my name is LiaJean McHenry. I'm the Senior Training Manager over here at Asset Map. I've been in the fintech space for a little over 6 years. Previously worked at eMoney Advisor for quite some time, and then I made the journey over to Asset Map, and it has been an incredible experience, and I can't wait to take you through the power of discovery today. So without further ado, let me go ahead and just break down our agenda so that we can set honest expectations as to what we're going to be talking about. So first, we're going to dive into the application and really talk about what discovery is, because many of you maybe aren't even 100% sure what it is. So we want to make sure that we define that clearly, and we'll kind of share with you why it was created to begin with. Now, you may or may not know, but the discovery interview, there's two different links that you can use, inbound and outbound. So we're going to talk about the differences between the two so that you can strategically use one over the other, or you'll know which one you'd like to use in certain settings. We'll, of course, all throughout today's session, share all the best practices that I can surrounding this particular area of the tool, along with some extras as well. Then we'll actually walk through the discovery process live so that you can see the types of questions that are in fact asked. And then we'll talk about best practices where even after that takes place, what are some next steps that you could think about doing? Of course, we will end with some support and resources where you can go if you have some additional questions and have need any further assistance. And then I'll check in with Brad just to see if there's any final questions before we conclude. Please know that throughout today's session, I am going to be bringing up two different questions that are going to appear as polls on this training. It would mean so much to me if you just take a moment to answer the poll, just so that I can get a good understanding of everyone's knowledge of the application and really what they're looking for in terms of content for us in the future. All right, and at the end, I'm also going to post a survey link in the chat. It would mean a lot to me also if you would just take a second to fill that out. Okay, so without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into the application and start talking about discovery. So first, where can you find it? Well, within the application, you can click Add a Household here. When you click that button, Discovery will be featured in the middle. And if you didn't know, clicking on our logo up here at the top actually brings you right back to your home dashboard anywhere that you are in the application. So that's just a helpful little snippet that I wanted to share. If you're not on the home page, you can also access the Add a Household button by clicking on your house icon on the upper left-hand side, where it's going to present the same two options, which is View Your Household Index and Add a Household. If you're not familiar, your household index is going to be your list of households that have been added into Asset Map. The last and final place of how you can, or rather the last two places that you can find and access Discovery is also from your homepage. You can launch Discovery immediately by clicking this button down here at the bottom. And then in addition, you can click on your main menu on the upper right-hand side to access Discovery. Now you might be saying, well, there's a lot of different ways you can get there. Yes, there is. And that's really just for your convenience because you may prefer to access the discovery interview process one way over another. So I just want to show you first where it all lives. So when we click add a household, there are three ways that you can add households into AssetMap. You can do it manually, you can use our discovery interview tool, and you can use integrations. Now, when we're thinking about our current book of business, right? If I've been working with John and Betsy Smith for the past 5 years, I probably already have a solid baseline understanding of what they have. Therefore, I typically recommend for your clients where you already know all the information about them, you're probably going to want to go the manual entry route or through integrations if you do subscribe to the partners that we have available. The reason for that is that the discovery interview is in fact a blank fact finder. So if we click get started here, it is a blank fact finder that you could send. You can generate a link and you can send it to the prospect or new client, and they'll go through the questions. They'll fill out the information. And when they get to the end and they click all done, it's then going to create a household into AssetMap. So discovery is absolutely one of the key ways that you can get households added into the application. So it was built as a blank online fact finder with the hopes of being able to ease financial professionals being able to collect prospective client data. It's a creative way to engage prospects if you're looking to do any kind of lead generation. And we're going to go over all those different avenues today. Now, as always, I like to just put that one line item out there that if you have to check with your compliance department in order how you can use the different links and the different avenues that I might share with you today, please make sure you check with your compliance department, especially for those of you that are affiliated with a BD, or even if you're an independent, if you have, a compliance person on staff, always a good idea to check. Okay, just right off the bat, I just want to mention that. So when you come to the discovery interview, there are two different links that you can utilize. We have an outbound link and an inbound link. First, when you come to the discovery summary page, which is what we're looking at here, this link that you're going to see listed in the middle of the screen is going to be your inbound discovery link. Okay, this link is specific to you and your AssetMap access. When we click copy next to our inbound link, if I open up a new tab in my browser and I go ahead and paste this is what the inbound discovery link is going to look like. The inbound discovery link we see utilized quite often because it can engage more than one person. So what I mean by this is if you're looking to do any kind of marketing campaign or you're looking to, take this inbound link and put it on your website, if you're developed and you have your own website, maybe there's a section of your website where you talk about the fact that you've invested in a tool called AssetMap. You can say build your AssetMap here. They could click on that, and then behind that would be your inbound discovery link. The idea behind this is that the inbound discovery link can engage anyone because we ask them to fill out their name, their email address, mark that they're not a robot, and then we'll create a branded experience for them. So if you're looking to do any kind of lead generation or you want to have one link that you can freely share with anyone, you're going to want to use your inbound discovery link. Now, let me show you just a quick example here of an example of a website for an advisor. And this particular advisor, on her website, she has a section that talks about the fact that she's invested in a tool called AssetMap. And this is actually just a fake site that we have for the example purposes. So again, always check with your compliance teams or departments if needed. So this particular advisor, she talks a little bit about the fact that she's invested in a tool called AssetMap to really help visualize and organize an entire household's finances in one clear graphical layout. And behind this button, which by the way, this button is available to you in our marketing kit. So if you just go to our resource center and type in marketing kit, you should have the ability to access this button. And behind this button in particular, this advisor has embedded her inbound discovery link. So if I, for example, was referred to this advisor, my friend says, I have this great advisor, her name is Allison, check out our website. I would, being a prospect, would come to this website and I'd say, this is exactly what I'm looking for, right? This particular advisor created a fake sample client, printed out the AssetMap report, took the image and put it on her website. And then behind this Build Your Asset Map button, the prospect, AKA me, I click on that button, it's going to take me directly to that financial professional's inbound discovery link, where now I could enter in my name, my email, mark that I'm not a robot, and then go ahead and click continue. All right, so the inbound discovery link is what you're going to utilize if you're looking to engage more than one person. We've also seen some financial professionals actually take their inbound discovery link and include it as part of their email signature. You know, if they do any kind of seminar or benefits meeting and they send that as part of the follow-up and they include it as part of their email signature. We've also seen some folks take their inbound link and actually create a QR code. You can go online, there's free QR code generators out there. You just take your inbound discovery link and you can create a QR code, and maybe you're going to utilize that on the back of your business card or in newsletters that you're going to be sending, so on, so forth. Again, always check with your compliance teams as needed. And then I'm going to come back to the discovery interview summary page. And now I want to take a moment to pivot and talk about outbound discovery links. Outbound discovery links are great when you want to personalize and already have a person in mind of whom you want to send the discovery interview to. Because in order to create an outbound discovery link, you already have to know the person of whom you want to send it to. For example, maybe I've been working with a gentleman named Peter Singer. Peter Singer is a friend of a current client of mine, and he saw my current client's asset map and said this is something that he's super interested in. He thinks that this is going to be fantastic for him and his wife to get on the same page for their finances. So we've had some minor conversation back and forth, and I have set the standard for Peter. Peter, before our first meeting or before our meeting next week, here's an online fact finder, and if you could fill this out to the best of your ability, this is going to help us get one step closer to having that single page visual that you're looking for, right? And one of the best practices that we see is just sending this outbound discovery link to the prospect or new client that you're looking to engage prior to your first meeting or prior to the next meeting that you're going to have, because they can then enter as much information as they can. When they click all done, a household will be added into Asset Map. So in order to generate an outbound discovery link, I type in Peter's name here, and I'll make sure to select the proper currency. And then I just have to click this button here that says Create Discovery. Upon clicking Create Discovery, it's now going to say, well, how do you want to send this discovery questionnaire to Peter Singer? Would you like to email it, copy the link, or launch now? Let's go through all three. First is the option you can hook up your email here, although I think that most of the time we all have our email pulled up on our other monitor anyway, so you can just copy the subject, copy the body message if you like. So this is a pre-templated message here that really just talks about, having him fill out this questionnaire. This link right here is going to be branded specific to Peter's name. So it's going to be branded to Peter Singer. We also brand the top of the email to Peter Singer as well. What's important to note about the outbound discovery links is that they are good for 14 days, which means that Peter can click into this outbound discovery link that's specific to him, and he can continue to add and edit information for up to 14 days as long as he doesn't go to the end and click all done. Once he's completed it and clicks all done, there's no going back. A household will be added into Asset Map. Okay, so I always like to mention that this is completely up to you as to whether or not you want to share this with the prospect or new client that you're looking to engage. Because I know some financial professionals that say, well, LiaJean, if I'm meeting with someone the following week, I don't want them to know that they have 14 days to fill out. So you don't have to include this, right? You can remove it. This is just really important for you to know for internal purposes, that technically they do have 14 days they can keep clicking into that link. Okay, up to your discretion whether you choose to share that. Now, I can also just copy the link. So this is the same link branded to Peter Singer that we saw a moment ago in that email template. If I just copy this is just going to copy directly to my clipboard. Now the three options disappear. Rest easy. If that ever happens, you just come next to the outbound link that you're looking for, which in this case, it's Peter Singer. I'm just going to come over here to the far right. I click this arrow button. and those three options will reappear. Okay. The final option is launch now, which, by the way, for the copy link, you would just copy to your clipboard. Maybe you've already typed up a little message and you just need to paste that link into your email. You can just go to your email and do Control V for paste, or you can right click and click paste, right? Variety of ways to do that. The third and final option is the Launch Now feature. So all we do is we take that link that's branded to Peter Singer, so then in this case it's the Outbound Discovery link, and we open up a new tab, and that's where we're going to go ahead and paste it. From here, this will be what the user experience looks like. What's so important to note here is that as long as you have your profile picture added within your user preferences section in Asset Map, your discovery interview process will be branded to you. If you do not add your profile picture, it's going to be a silhouette of like a cartoon avatar. I personally think that anytime we can make things be an extension of us, that creates a better prospect new client experience across the board. So if you haven't already, please make sure you add your profile picture because we do brand the discovery process. And then also make sure your contact information is up to date because your email address is actually embedded behind your name. Okay. If you're not familiar with where to go for those two sections to make sure that you have them set up appropriately, if we come back into the Asset Map application, click on your main menu on the upper right-hand side, click into User Preferences. Immediately, you'll see where you can update your contact info as well as add in your profile picture. Okay. That being said, why is this launch now option for outbound discovery links helpful? Well, perhaps Peter Singer isn't the most technologically savvy, and I would prefer to set up an interactive data gathering meeting. Maybe we're going to do that data gathering in our first meeting together. I'm just going to set the expectation prior to that meeting that he come prepared with his statements and the different types of incomes, assets, liabilities, etc. that he has. I can then set up a remote meeting, or if you're doing in-person meetings, and I can use this launch now option for the outbound discovery link for Peter Singer to then project this up on the screen or share the screen if I'm doing a remote meeting. And I can say, Peter, thank you so much for joining me here today. I'm now going to take us through a series of questions just to gather as much information as we can. And again, the outcome of this is we're going to be able to produce that single page financial inventory of everything that you have. We got to gather that baseline of where you're at today so that we can really then assess your goals and see if you're on track for those unexpected events if something was to take place, and make sure more importantly that you're on track for the goals that you're looking to accomplish, right? At the end of the day, anyone's going to understand that we have to gather the baseline understanding of what they have in order for us to really holistically evaluate where they are today. The discovery interview process is fantastic because it allows for a prospect or new client to be able to go through and add as much information as they can. That streamlines the workflow for you a little bit, right? But it doesn't always mean that you're going to have a complete picture. We'll talk about best practices surrounding how to handle incomplete discovery interviews as we go on through today's session. Coming back here, the last thing I'd like to mention is just again that we have two separate links. We have your inbound discovery link that you can access at any time. Again, this is the link that you're going to want to use if you're looking to do any kind of lead generation or trying to engage multiple people at a time through one link. You're always going to use your inbound discovery link. If you already have someone in mind, a prospect, a new client that you're looking to onboard into Asset Map, you can create outbound discovery links. And you can create as many outbound discovery links as you want. I just created one for Peter Singer. Yesterday, I created one for a prospect I'm looking to engage named Adam Ross, so on, so forth. You'll see what type of source it is based over here on the left-hand side. So we'll see that I created some outbound links. Somebody came through my inbound link over here. Just important for you to know of these different areas. On the upper right-hand side, we have a great tutorial button as well. So if you're someone who's looking to even learn further about discovery, that is a great 15-minute video that was done by our CEO and founder, Adam Holt, about how he utilized the discovery interview process as part of his practice working with prospects and with clients. All right, Brad, let me go ahead and check in with you because I have been seeing the chat kind of be popular today, and I just want to make sure that we're doing okay on questions or if there's anything I can answer.
All good to go, LJ.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Now, before we walk through this live discovery process, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually show you what it looks like pretending to be a prospect, filling out this information. Be mindful that the questions within the online fact finder for discovery are the same, whether you choose to create a personalized outbound link and give it to the prospect or new client, or you engage anyone through your inbound discovery link. The questions are the same. The only difference is that the inbound discovery link is not automatically branded to anyone at first. They have to enter their name, their email address, mark that they're not a robot, and then they will get a branded experience. Okay. Now, I actually want to get just a general idea of if for those of you who possibly are using the discovery interview link. So I'm actually going to go ahead and launch a poll right now. And I'm very much interested of knowing, how are you using the asset map discovery interview links? Are you using it with every prospect and new client before your first meeting? Maybe you've used it a few times here and there. You haven't yet, but you want to, or you don't see a place for discovery in your process. Now, my hope is that you're not going to pick the last one, right? That's why I'm here. I want to share with you the value of how this can be a fantastic resource for onboarding new clients and prospects. And it does look like it's pretty close for 50-50, where a lot of you have used it a few times here and there, and a few of you have not used it, but you want to. Okay. And for those of you that don't see a place for it in your discovery process, because I think maybe one or two of you might have selected that, don't be afraid to reach out to our team to kind of talk through that. Because, of course, there's no obligation that you have to use it, but there's always a good opportunity for us to kind of talk one on one to see if, in fact, it could be a great resource for you. And sometimes that's just coming down to us just learning a little bit more about your process. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop this poll. So I'm going to go ahead and close it. And I'll go ahead and share this briefly just so that you can all see it. Many of you, the highest vote that we got was that you haven't used it yet, but you want to. And I'm glad to see that some of you are using it actively, and then others of you have used it a few times here and there. Rest easy. We're going to go through this in detail. Like I said, my hope is that you'll continue to use it. And if you're not using it yet, that you'll be inspired to do so. All right, I'm going to go ahead and hide that. Brad, I just want to check with you to make sure that the poll has been closed out and is no longer on the screen before we move on.
Yep, you're good.
Thank you so much. Okay, so let's walk through what this process is going to look like. Let's say, for example, that this particular advisor put their inbound discovery link on their website. A prospect stumbles upon their website, perhaps through a referral from a friend, and they say, I'm absolutely interested in getting my own asset map. So from here, they can actually fill out their name. So I'm just going to go ahead and add in, let's say that this individual's name is Faye Thompson. Okay. Faye Thompson fills out her name. She's going to put her email address in here. She's going to mark that she's not a robot and then watch what happens. Faye clicks continue, and then it's going to create a branded experience. So that inbound discovery link is valuable because anyone who clicks into it has to just enter some basic information, and then they too get a branded experience. So if Faye's ready to get going, she can click start now. And the first thing we're going to ask is just tell us a little bit about yourself. So she's going to come in here and she's going to add in her information. And we're going to go ahead and mark her gender, and we'll go ahead and add in her age. Let's say that she's 45 years old. So she's going to go ahead and click save. Just as a quick aside, for those of you who have not walked through the discovery interview process on your own, if you're taking notes, write this down. Schedule 15-20 minutes later this week, sometime next week. Take your inbound discovery link or create an outbound link and actually walk through the process as if you're a new client, as if you are a prospect. You can enter all fake information. You don't have to enter your own if you don't want to. Why is this valuable? Quite frankly, credibility. Could you imagine if that you created an outbound link and like the one I just did for Peter Singer, and if I sent that to him in an email and then he replied back like, "Great, I'll fill this out. Just curious, what types of questions are you gonna or is it gonna ask me so that I can be prepared?" Well, if I've never gone through the experience before, how would I know? I'm a huge advocate for being, setting honest expectations and setting yourself up for success. You want to be able to say, listen, Peter, this should take you less than 15 minutes, give or take. We're just going to ask you about the members and people that are a part of your financial picture. What types of financials do you have? What are your financial concerns? And then an opportunity for you to kind of share with me what you'd like to talk more about, right? We should all be able to share that if ever asked, right? If they ask what types of questions are asked. All right, back to this particular discovery interview. So Faye entered herself. Now she's going to go ahead and add in the other members of her family. And Faye is married, so she's going to add in her husband. So she's going to click add person. A relationship drop down here. So she'll go ahead and select that this is her spouse. She's going to go ahead and enter her husband's name. So we'll go ahead and type in the last name Thompson here, and she's going to mark that he's a male, and she'll enter his age as well. So we'll go ahead and say that he's 46 years old. After she clicks save, we'll go ahead and continue and keep on this page to continue to ask her, hey, who are the important people in your life? By the way, this doesn't have to just be your family. This could be business partners, this could be close friends, this could be other financial professionals. Maybe together, Fag and Greg have a child. So she's going to click add a person. She's going to select that she has a dependent, and she's going to go ahead and add in her daughter, whose name is Hannah. And so she's going to add that in here. Now, Hannah is 16 years old, so we're going to mark that appropriately. And then she's going to go ahead and click save. Is there anyone else? Well, maybe Greg's mom recently moved in with them because Greg's dad recently passed, and with the pandemic still going on, they felt it'd be best that she stay with family. And so she's very much a part of their financial picture. So she's going to click add person, and she can select. You'll notice here that we don't just only provide options for a spouse or children or a family member. We recognize that every single household is different and dynamic, and the people that they find or would deem to be important or a part of their financial picture can vary far beyond just family members. So something I love so much about AssetMap is that we don't pigeonhole anyone from having to choose just from like one or two different options. There's always going to be the ability to really expand and select the proper role for the people that are a part of their life. So in this case, she's going to select family, and she's going to go ahead and add in her mother-in-law's name, and her mother-in-law's name is Claudia, so she's going to enter that in here. And after she adds this in, you'll notice that we're not asking for a ton of information. We don't want this to be a, difficult experience. We just want to be able to gather the basic information that's necessary to get the conversation started. So let's say, for example, that Faye doesn't have anyone else that's a part of her financial picture at this moment that she feels that she should add into the application. So she can go ahead and click continue. The next section we're going to prompt her with is, let's get an idea of your financial picture. Click the items that you or the members of your household currently have. So she's going to say, well, I'm working, we have a home, we definitely have investments, we have some savings and checking account, of course, and then we have insurance. Based off of the selections, when she clicks continue, we're now going to say, okay, now let's get started with the details. You've said that you have these different types of accounts. Now please come in here and actually select what you have. So for income, she's going to click start, and she can select that she is working, and she could even put who her employer is if she wants, but she doesn't have to. Also a drop down here, it doesn't have to just be in employment or salary. She could select other different options in here. For the sake of time today, I'm going to keep this example pretty simplistic. So she's going to click save. Her husband is also working, so she's going to click add income. She's going to mark his name. And again, I'm going to move pretty quickly through this just for the sake of time. Again, walk through this experience yourselves so that you can see the types of questions that we ask as well as the level of detail that we're asking for. Real estate. Yep, they have a real estate property, so she's going to go ahead and mark that appropriately. This is their primary home. A couple other options in here, though, maybe a vacation home, rental home, commercial property, really anything else that they'd like to add. In this case, they just have a primary residence that's worth $600,000 and they live in, let's say, Westchester, Pennsylvania. Okay. And then from there, she's going to go ahead and click save. Once she clicks done, then she can move on to the next section. Now let's create a very realistic scenario. If somebody is going through this discovery interview process and they mark that they have investments or they mark that they have insurance, if they don't have the statements in front of them, one, they might make assumptions, or two, they may not add anything. Do not be discouraged by that. If once you see that a discovery has been complete and you go in and you say, this doesn't really have that much information, it seems like there's a lot of stuff missing. Do not be discouraged. We have tools in the application to help you fuel those ongoing conversations, to help you fill in the gaps. And I would argue that an incomplete discovery is an opportunity. It's an opportunity for a conversation. We all know that gathering the data is the hardest part. We have to do it in order to do the best planning possible for our clients. So maybe she doesn't have the logins. Her husband's at work at the moment when she's filling this out. She doesn't know her own logins at this moment. Insurance, she's not 100% sure. So she's going to go to what she knows. Well, I know we have a joint savings account because I just put money into it yesterday. I know that it has $26,000 in it. And, this is held at Bank of America. So she's going to go ahead and click save here. Now, maybe she doesn't want to add any other financials at this time. We're not going to prevent her from moving on. She can click continue. And the next section that we're going to ask her about is, well, what's on your mind? What are your financial concerns? These could be goals, but they could also be things that they're worried about. She might say, well, we're worried about retirement, definitely are worried about caring for a parent since, Claudia's moved in with us. We don't know exactly what that's going to look like for our future. Definitely interested in talking more about saving for college because Hannah's 16. She's going to be going to college in the next couple years. And if there's anything else that they'd like to check, they can do so. Once she clicks continue, the very last section before she clicks all done, which would then create a household and asset map, is a free text field. We're going to say, is there anything else on your mind? If there's any topics that you'd like to cover with your advisor, feel free to note them below. So maybe she's just going to write education planning. She's going to write retirement planning. Okay, she might write something like this. This is a free text field. They can write a couple words, they can write a sentence, they can write a novel. Once she clicks all done, this is going to say congratulations. And now a household's been added an asset map. Now you can actually, from here, when we hop into the asset map application, we can click in discovery here. When we click into discovery, we're then going to go ahead and refresh our screen. And once I click refresh, I'm going to see that an inbound link has come through for Faye Thompson, which means that she's 100% completed it. Or rather, I should say someone's come through my inbound discovery link. The person's name is Faye Thompson. It is 100% complete. Therefore, a household has been created into AssetMap. Now, as a best practice, you may or may not know that as a household is created through the use of discovery, we also create a discovery summary report. In my opinion, this is a best practice to always click on the report, download it onto your computer prior to meeting with your prospect or new client, and open it. Why? Because this is a summarization of everything that they entered, but most importantly, this is the only place you're going to see that free text field. So if you're meeting with someone who even you created an outbound discovery link for, the only way you're going to know if they have written something to say, yes, I want to talk about A, B, and C when I meet with this individual, you need to download this report so that you can see the free text. Anyone who comes through your inbound discovery link, which you may be using in creative ways for lead generation, this is the only place also that you're going to see their email address to then reach out to them. Right? So if I've taken my inbound link and I've posted it on my website and I get somebody who comes through, it's probably likely that I've never talked to that person before, right? So it's going to be up to me to take a look and see if this is somebody I want to reach out to. And if it is, I can then just take their email address and I can reach out and I can schedule some time to talk, right? I can schedule that first meeting. so on and so forth. So I believe that to be a best practice, completely up to you whether you'd like to utilize. I will say that I typically use this particular report just for like internal purposes. I don't know that I've ever really seen this being used in a client facing manner. It's really just kind of to notate and log the information that was entered through that discovery process. Okay, coming back here. From here, I can go ahead and click into the household icon. And once I click that, it's going to take me immediately into that household that's been created for the Thompson household. I can immediately click into that asset map, and everything that was entered through that discovery process is now going to be transmitted into this household. So I see that there's Faye Thompson, Greg Thompson. I can see that they've added in Hannah and Claudia. Based off of the ages, I might assume this is their daughter. I might assume that this is, a relative of sorts tied to Greg. Unless Thompson is Faye's last name and he took her name, absolutely possible. And again, maybe we don't make any kind of assumption. We just know that there's Hannah, she's 16. I see Claudia, and she's 82. They added in some joint accounts. I can see some income that's been added. And if you're not familiar with how the asset map report works, you're always going to have your primary client and spouse featured in the middle, any additional members or entities along the top. Anything that they each respectfully own will be on their respective sides. Anything jointly owned will be down below. And then anything insurance related will always be up top. You can kind of think about it as being that umbrella. Now, they did in fact mark that they have insurance as well as investments. So we did in fact create financial tiles on their asset map. This is a great visual for me to be able to call Faye and Greg prior to our first meeting. And I might say, thank you so much for filling out that online fact finder. We're one step closer to really having and providing that single page financial inventory. Faye, Greg, you had marked that you had insurance and investments. Is that in fact correct? I didn't see anything enter beyond that. They might say, LiaJean, I'm so sorry. We just didn't have the logins ready. We were late for dinner. The kid, Hannah, was having trouble with school, had to hop out, whatever the case may be. We can then set the expectation prior to us meeting on Thursday next week. If you could just gather those statements, that would be helpful, and we'll make sure to get that entered. Again, anyone's going to understand that we need to gather their baseline to evaluate where they are today. Now, those financial concerns, she marked that she's concerned about caring for a parent, she's concerned about education planning, and she's concerned about retirement. We do create placeholders on the asset map that align with those financial concerns. Now, if you'd like to leave them on the map to help drive conversations to those in the next time that you meet, absolutely. Or if you prefer to remove them and you're just going to have them written down and you're going to speak to them instead, you can always click into these placeholders and you can click the trash can button. Now, what we're looking at here is what I would consider to be an incomplete asset map, right? Therefore, this person came through the discovery interview process and it is incomplete. Do not be discouraged. You can use stencils to overlay placeholders onto the asset map to help drive conversation. And how you can access the stencils is you can use your actions menu on the upper left-hand side and you can click apply stencil. There will be different stencils available to you. I like to use the building block stencil. So there will be some that are pre-built for you, but you can always create custom stencils to your advantage as well. And you can select whether you want to apply the whole thing, yes or no. So you can apply them in full or in part, but I'm going to go ahead and just click apply stencil. I'm keeping this relatively high level because next month we're going to be diving into how you can save time using asset maps stencils. So we will completely go through the power of utilizing the pre-built stencils, how you can apply them in full and in part, as well as how you can create custom stencils to your benefit to help save you time. Stencils will be outlined in light gray, filled in light gray, and also have a dollar value. Now, the power here is that you can apply the stencil prior to your meeting with this prospect or new client the next time you're going to meet or for the first time you're going to meet. And I can set the expectation. Faye, Greg, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for giving me that preliminary information. We're getting started. We've already gotten started on your asset map. Now, you marked that you had insurance as well as investments. And I just wanted to take the liberty of putting some placeholders on your asset map just to ensure that we don't miss anything. Your peers typically have one or two of these different accounts, and I just want to make sure that we don't miss anything whatsoever. Do any of these ring a bell? And then from there, it's a great visualization for them to say, yes, I have a retirement savings account. Great. We can click into that placeholder. We can add all that information and we can click update. So using stencils is a great next step if you have an incomplete discovery. Or if you prefer to just schedule an interactive meeting, whether in person or remote, and you just want to share the screen and just ask them if there's any assets missing instead, that's one way to do it. I do think that the stencils are fantastic though, because they do create a nice visualization, being that they are placeholders. And when you apply a stencil prior to meeting with your prospect or new client for the first time, if you're using our pre-built ones especially, but even custom ones that you build, you don't have to keep all the placeholders. If there's a particular section that maybe doesn't pertain to the household that you're looking to engage, you can remove it. For example, Faye already told me her employment, so she's already given me what she makes for her job. Maybe I don't want this placeholder. Prior to the meeting, I could just remove it so that we're not even asking the question, do you have a second job? Now, some of you like to always play devil's advocate, and I've had financial professionals say, well, if you don't know anything about this person, maybe it's best to just leave everything just in case. Completely fine. Once you apply a stencil, if you want to remove it from view, you can just right click your actions menu with your mouse. You can just right click and you can click clear stencil, and that will remove the stencil from view. Anything that has been saved would then stay onto the asset map. Now let's talk about how you'll be notified if somebody does have a complete discovery interview process. There's two ways that you'll be notified. One, you'll be notified from your bell icon on the upper right-hand side, and the system default is to also email you. If you want to check out those notifications to be sure, you can also click on your main menu on the upper right-hand side, and you can click into user preferences. This is where you're going to come to update your contact information, add your profile picture, and if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, this is where you can see notifications. These bottom four are specific to the discovery interview process. System default is to email you as well as notify you in-app. I personally like getting the emails to keep track. If you think that you're going to be using your inbound link for lead generation and you're worried that might bog down your email, you can always set up a rule within your email to have those emails funneled to a folder, and maybe you check that folder once a week, right? Just kind of sharing with you some best practices there. Now, that being said, I am going to, before I check in with Brad to see if there's any additional questions, I'm really curious and I'd like to know from each and every one of you, what types of content from Asset Map interest you the most? Is it technical process training webinars like the one that I'm facilitating today? Do you like newsletters? Is it thought leadership and community webinars that you've probably joined with us in the past? Is it in-depth master series training? Is it case studies and white papers? This is something that you can vote more than once on, so this isn't like you have to just pick one. I encourage you to mark appropriately what types of content that you'd really like to see more of from us in the future. Now, while we're doing this poll for a couple more seconds, Brad, let me check in with you. Do we have any outstanding questions?
No, we are all good to go.
Okay, perfect. All right, so my hope is that after taking you through the demonstration today, you have a better understanding of the difference between the outbound discovery link versus the inbound discovery link. Understanding that the discovery questions are the same in either, right? One is just personalized to an individual that you're going to send it to, and one is that you can use for the masses. After that, I took you through a live demonstration of what the discovery interview process looks like. And my encouragement to you again is to go through that process yourself so that you have a great understanding of what that will look like for your prospects and clients. Now, as I mentioned, the discovery interview was intended originally and designed originally to engage prospects, new clients, but you can also use it if you perhaps take over an orphan book of business. So you have an advisor that's leaving and you're going to look to engage clients that you've never met with for the first time. Really, you can use the discovery interview for any household that is not added into Asset Map yet. So for example, if I add John and Betsy Smith into Asset Map manually and I add all their financials, I am not going to send them a discovery interview link, because if I do, they will be greeted with a blank online fact finder. They will fill it out, and when they click all done, another John and Betsy Smith household will be added into Asset Map. What we've just done, if we did something like that, is we've duplicated efforts on all fronts. So I want to really just drive down and drive home that the discovery interview tool is to be used with prospects, new clients, or any households that are not added into Asset Map yet. And you can use this in a variety of ways, but it is a creative way to streamline your process. And don't be discouraged if you ever have an incomplete discovery that comes through, because you can use stencils to overlay placeholders. You can set up an interactive data gathering meeting to fill in those gaps. At the end of the day, our clients, prospects, people we're looking to engage, all they want from us is to know that we care about them. And in order for us to really evaluate their goals and see where they're headed, or if an unplanned life event happens, what's the impact going to be on their family, we have to gather the data. And the discovery tool is fantastic in aiding us to do that. So let's talk about some next steps. So I'm going to go ahead and hop here to my PowerPoint. I'd really love it if you would sign up for next month's Accelerate Series webinar. This is where Brad is going to post this in the chat right now. So that's going to be our June Accelerate Series webinar. That's going to be focused on saving time using Asset Map stencils. So we will fully go through stencils in detail in that particular webinar. If you love us, we'd love to hear from you. There's nothing better than if you could take a moment and leave us a G2 review so that your peers who are evaluating their tech stacks can see what Asset Map can do for them and their business. And the last thing I'd like to mention is that once a quarter, we host an incredibly immersive training that is our Asset Map Bootcamp. And Brad's going to post the link to our registration site right now in the chat, but I'm going to hop there too, just so that we can kind of talk about this for just a moment. When you click on that link, it's going to take you here to our registration site. So as I mentioned, once a quarter, we host an incredibly immersive deep dive training, all things Asset Map. It's a 3-day event, and our next one's coming up July 28th through 30th. I know what you're thinking. You might be saying, well, that's so far away. Right, exactly. So be sure to snag your seat today because they fill up. And this is an exclusive event. And if you're really looking to take your Asset Map knowledge to the next level, I'm going to encourage you to think about joining us. I'd love to see you there. If we come to the agenda tab, this will kind of break down each day. You do not have to come to all 3 days if you don't want to. We offer a Bootcamp 101 session, which is day 1 of our program. It's a half day, so from 12 to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we really focus on all the different focus points listed here. I myself facilitate that session alongside my incredible colleague, Sean Dodds, who is our customer onboarding advisor. And we also have a special guest who will pop in, Adam Holtz, our CEO and founder. You may know of him. You can also join us for just our 201 session, which is broken out over the last 2 days. So this is a very in-depth, deep dive, all about the Asset Map Advisor approach, how to host a live client review meeting using Asset Map. You can hear best practices from your peers, because you may or may not know this, but we have financial professionals that attend boot camp every year, multiple times a year, because they get so much value out of it. We'll talk about creating custom stencils, how you can use them to your advantage. We also dive into target maps, really understanding the full ins and outs of how they work, how you can use them to your advantage, how you can wield the Asset Map in practice, and then also diving into some key practice management tools that you may or may not have thought about implementing into your practice. Why am I talking about this? Because right now, exclusively, we're offering early bird pricing. This is something that we've never done before. So from today up until May 31st, we are offering exclusive early bird offer of 35% off your ticket using the promo code EBBC35. So when you come to this homepage, you can go ahead and type in that promo code, click apply, and then you could either join us for just our 101 session, just our 201 sessions, or all 3 days, which is the boot camp combo. The last thing I'd like to just ask of all of you, if you could just take a moment, Brad's going to paste a survey within the chat, and I'd really like to know if you found this training valuable. I'd love to hear from you to know if you took something away from it, if you found it valuable, if there's any areas you'd like to see us improve. It would mean the world to me. This is how we continue to be innovative and create new content that you all are asking for. All right, Brad, let me check in with you. Any final questions before we wrap up today?
No, we are all good. Everything is squared away and answered.
Perfect. Well, then, where I'll conclude is just thanking you all again for taking your time and joining me here. I hope that you're excited to start implementing discovery into your practice, again, as a creative way to onboard prospects, perhaps use for lead generation. Thank you so much for attending. I hope you have a fantastic remainder to your week and an even better weekend to follow. Bye-bye.